Good morning.
Morning.
Apologize for the short delay. And as always, as you all know, we're putting together these type of programs and technical difficulties with logistics. So we do apologize. It's not waiting on to do this. My name is Sherman Henry. I'm the program manager of Advancing Black Strategies Initiative with Morehouse College. So welcome to our 11th annual national conference, where we're going to focus in on labor research, action, and action networks. This is particularly an interesting time in the labor movement because we're now dealing with a new America. And America Smiley, like I said, we want to reimagine the labor movement here in the South, but in general, globally. And in that, we want to raise critical voices that are not often heard, which are oftentimes underrepresented folks in the workplace. So this conference represents our initial stage in elevating those voices and making them mainstream so we can now have a vibrant labor movement in this country and abroad. So today we want to kind of do some house cleaning, and I'm going to turn this over to Sandra Williams. One, I want to remind everybody of the vote. You've been sent emails about voting. So if you check the emails, voting closes at midnight, and we definitely want high participation on the voting. If you have any additional questions about the conference that was not mentioned in the registration and the package, the conference package, speak with the folks at registration desk. Everyone has their package? Okay. In addition to that, we're going to have lunch around noon. Follow the crowd, but it's just right outside the building up the hill. And everyone will have lunch. Everyone has a lunch voucher, I assume. In addition to that, we have the model passes for those who want to explore advanced complements of the model system. We'll hear from this leader tomorrow. So the next person I want to introduce is the moderator of this panel. This is Sandra Williams, Deputy Political Director of Southeast Retail Wholesale Department Store Union, Executive Board of the Atlanta and North Georgia Central Labor Council, who's a veteran in the movement and a good friend. And I think Sandra has a lot to share with us throughout this process for ABSI and what we're trying to do with reimagining a labor movement here in the South and globally. Thank you. Sandra, it's your show.
I know some of you traveled late to the night. We made it here very early this morning. So we're pleased and we welcome you to Atlanta for all of you that traveled here from us. This morning, I hope you find this very interesting. We're going to be talking about fighting for racial and economic justice through organizing. We live in a time and in a state. This is a right to work state for those of you that have come from the North. And we are witnessing a lot of anti-worker legislation. We're looking at a number of anti-worker employers. And we want to talk a little bit about what these folks here have done in their particular unions. We have represented here the CWA union, the Teamsters, and my union, the Retail Wholesale Department Store Union, RWDSU. So we're going to start with some brief introductions. And I'll start with Edgar Fields.
Good morning, everyone. Look around, I don't know whether I'm in church with the folks not on the front row. Right. Sandra asked me to do a brief introduction and also as to myself. Edgar Fields, native Texan, Austin, Texas. Grew up in a family of and it's so ironic with the retail wholesale department, so we represent protein workers, a lot of them. And I grew up as my father was a butcher and worked in one of the slaughterhouses there in Austin. And my mom was a worker. And I'll leave it at that. She did some of everything in order to make things meet. My history was the labor movement. I've been a union member since I was 17. First union I joined was the laborers union in high school. I realized that they were making more money than other folks doing a summer job. And I found out I want to be one of them. So I joined that, then went off to college. I went to school at Texas A&M University. where I played football for them, Laurel Aggie. And during the summer, also I worked in construction also, as a means to stay in shape, but also I try to pay my way. Went on, was drafted by Atlanta Falcons in '77, played 5 years in the NFL where I was active with our union. And during the off season, I assisted other unions organizing. My first organizing drive were some lumber workers that in Warrenton, Georgia, that wanted to organize a union. And I was asked to come and speak as to how football players could have a union, and the folks that's out there fighting their butts off every day to cut up lumber and all of that couldn't. So that was my first organizer drive. Since then, since 1985, I've been working consistently with labor. I went to work for the carpenters union in '85 and stayed there 14 years. And there was this union for over 20 years. So all of my life, I have enjoyed the laws and privileges of being a union member. And I say it like that because that's exactly what they are. The laws and privileges of being a union member. And also during that time, that's very active in civil rights. And also learned more as far as organizing the civil rights in the community than you actually do in life. Right. So with that, I'll pass it on.
All right. Is this, y'all hear me? I don't think so. Mom? Y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Let's see. Sorry. I'm not very good at technology, so. Thank you. Thank you, brother. Chuck Stiles, I'm the vice president of Teamsters Local 728 here in Atlanta. Soon to be 12,000 member local due to organizing what I do, and my good friend Natalie Smalls does. I'll give you the background on myself. RWDSU was actually the first union I was a member of when I was 16 and 17 years old. I started driving a truck at 17. But during high school, I worked for the old A&P supermarket. My father was a union carpenter with the supermarket. There were union Teamster drivers. There's Teamster warehousing, all the building trades and all the maintenance work. RWDSU, and some of you other folks y'all may not realize this. At that time, there were no public stores in Atlanta. Kroger was a much smaller medium than it is now. There were no Food Depots, there were no Walmarts. I made just a hair over $6 an hour in 1977, 78. Okay, I got double time for Sunday work, up $12 an hour, right? This is what's our state minimum wage now? $5.15 is our state minimum wage, right? So that shows you what, because we had density in the market, how we were able to raise all boats, right? So that was my experience. I said, hey, this is great. Fast forward, I started driving a truck, got hired at a union freight line, was elected steward 30 days after I went there. I've been a member now for 37 years at Local 728. I'm also, I worked as an international organizer for many years for our international union. I also now am the head of the Teamster Solid Waste Division. Our union as a whole has around 1.2 million members. My division has around 35,000. It shocks a lot of people when I start to talk about waste workers, the passion I have for. You think that being a police officer or fighting fires is a deadly job. Well, this job is much more deadlier than that. Every year, different rankings, it'll go from 3, 4 to 5 in the top rankings. These people do something that has to be done every day, right? They protect us against disease. Look at this heat, man. Let your garbage sit around and see what happens. Vermin and all of this. So they get looked down on in my book, and they're the greatest people on earth. Still, all right. Let me have a second. Thank you. Oh, man, I can really sound off now, the real mic. So, but anyway, it goes back to organizing. I've been very successful in organizing as we get more into it. with the people around me. You've got to realize in Georgia, we say a right to work state, and Natalie's going to speak on that because she is one of the greatest internal organizers we've ever had at Local 728. I do external organizing, I bargain contracts. You've got to realize here, and I wish that more, and I know there's folks here from New York, Chicago, different areas. Look, we're in the South, we're all each other's allies. I don't say the hell with the iron workers, I need the iron workers. I don't say the hell with this community group, I need them. They don't say the hell with the teachers, they need us. We're all in one bowl here, and we're all gonna get eat up by the same damn politicians and the same CEOs all over this country. So we know what we've got to do to fight. So with that, I'm glad to be here. And I really appreciate this, and thanks for having me here. But I'm gonna turn it off to my star right over here. So Natalie.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Natalie Swallow. I'm 44 years old. I've been a teacher of the 728 for 25 years. I'm actually a full-time driver, so I'm an inside combo, a 22.3, which I do 4 hours on the road, and then I come in the building and I do clerical work. I'm a union steward, and I'm also one of the 5 Amazon workers in the local 728, trying to help organize Amazon workers. Yes.
No.
Okay. Is it on? Doesn't seem like it. I'll just be Great. I'm Cassie Waters, and I'm the organizing coordinator for District 3 of Communications Workers of America, CWA, and that's the Southeast United States and Puerto Rico. And shout out to all the members in the audience. I feel like the longer I do this, the more thank yous I have to give. And so I'm gonna I'll just say a little bit about me and then I'll do some thank yous. I come from parents who were both in different unions. I'm from Oklahoma City. They each engaged with their union in a strike during my childhood, the teachers and the symphony musicians. I connected more with that past as a college student when I became part of a coalition formed to fight the outsourcing of college custodians. I was involved in this movement to fight corporate globalization, and that's the time that I came involved with Jobs with Justice. Still involved. I'm on the board of the Jobs and Justice of East Tennessee. I live in Knoxville. I was a rank and file member of a higher education union, the Harvard Union of Clerical and Technical Workers, an AFSCME affiliate while staff at the Harvard School of Public Health. And I organized for 8 years with United Campus Workers, part of CWA in Tennessee, before coming on the staff of our national union. And I'll say more later. Some here are members, obviously, or have been involved with UCW, CWA, so have heard the term minority union or pre-majority union. So I'm going to talk about that at some point if I could. But just a few thank yous. Thank you to Morehouse College for hosting. Thank you to LRAN. Thank you to Sherman Henry for reaching out to CWA Local 3204 President Ed Barlow, an Atlanta native, who many people know, I'm sure, who connected him with me. And thank you to Ms. Sandra Williams for moderating. Our District 3 Vice President is Richard Honeycutt, based here in Atlanta. I want to acknowledge the work that CWA Local 3204 does here, including the work that Sheila Sawyer-Reed, who's in the audience, and many others do. My colleague Akia Johnson is an organizer here as well. Continue building our union, engaging existing members, and doing the hard work of recruiting new members. The challenge of building power as opposed to just exercising it, and folks trying to overcome their fear and overcome that anti-union campaign, which I'll talk more about too. All the work that they do in the local and state legislative and political arena, along with all the other areas, CWA locals. I want to shout out, thank you, Franklin, Dr. Franklin, professor in political science at MTSU, in Tennessee, a member of United Campus Workers, among a lot of other affiliations, who's been a comrade and collaborator, somebody I've had the pleasure of working with at a few conferences now over the years. You should check out his workshop. And I would just be remiss if I didn't say I had the great pleasure of briefly meeting the Reverend James Orange back in the early 2000s when he toured the country with Stuart Acuff, another local name, for a while, as part of an effort by Jobs of Justice to show the documentary At the River I Stand about the assassination of Dr. King during the Memphis sanitation worker strike. So I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
Thank you all for your introductions, and now on to questions. Cassie, I'm going to start with you. Talk with us about the impact of the intergenerational nature of organizing right now, particularly when the movement has, we see a shift in the movement. And this is not just a moment, we actively see organizing throughout the country, but particularly here in the South. How does that play with CWA? And talk with us a little bit about the Apple campaign.
Sure. I just want to say that workers from Amazon in Bessemer, Alabama, and Staten Island, New York, and elsewhere, and Starbucks workers from all over are an inspiration to myself for the courage and conviction standing up to the boss, and to the Apple Cumberland retail workers who I'll talk about. Shout out to the first Atlanta Starbucks store to unionize earlier this month, the Howard Mill Road Starbucks. And the Amazon warehouse workers in Bessemer, Alabama, and their ongoing struggle to organize and elsewhere. One of the top issues, so I hope tomorrow you'll may get to meet Derek Bowles, who is a rank and file leader in the struggle, who continues to organize with Apple retail workers in the Atlanta Apple Cumberland Mall store and with stores throughout the region and country as part of a growing movement. I'll just say briefly, it was not, the hard part was not finding solidarity or support. And so President Barlow, with the help of Ms. Sander and many others from the Georgia AFL-CIO and Central Labor Council, the Coalition of Black Trade Unionists, and more, I mean, they were right there as soon as the campaign started, convened a local coalition to support the organizing drive of the first Apple retail workers to file a petition for an election, Apple Cumberland Mall, these past couple of months, and I got to witness the strength of that solidarity network here. So because of their involvement and support, we saw letters of support from state elected officials and candidates for office, as well as community and faith leaders. I'll thank Charlie Fleming, president of Georgia AFL-CIO, and Patrick Scott, director of the Organizing Institute, both of whom came out to Apple Cumberland Mall on May Day with the workers there in the store. We saw the grassroots support from the local Democratic Socialists of America and the Industrial Workers of the World chapters here in Atlanta who made store visits to show their support. The organizing committee at Cumberland Mall saw some of the initial support from their coworkers get eroded by some slick union busting paid for by Apple corporate, who opted to hire the anti-union law firm Littler Mendelson, the same firm that Starbucks corporate hired, and who engaged in union busting activity through captive audience meetings and their daily download shift meetings, as well as offsite roundtables with free food on the clock across the street at the Sheridan Suites. And they followed the union busting playbook and sprinkled in their own flavors, incorporating elements of Apple's credo and turning coworkers on coworkers. Everybody's familiar with this story. So meanwhile, as a result of this store launching their efforts to organize, Apple Retail moved up the timeline on a significant national raise by 5 months allowing for compression so that those workers who've been there longer still see a significant bump. They had not done that before. And adjusted the scheduling to allow for more weekend days off regularly. And the store in Towson, Maryland, won their union election this past Saturday night with a machinist. Just want to say they shouted out Atlanta for helping to prepare them for what to expect. We did not move forward in Atlanta because we lacked that public majority, but the committee's regrouping. We will come back again because they know that we're stronger together. I'll just say one more thing. That it struck me listening to Jennifer Bates, a worker organizer and leader in the Bessemer, Alabama Fulfillment Center, on an episode of a podcast called The Labor about women leading the labor movement, that one of the things we have to overcome, and we saw this with Apple here, is the lack of connection to and or the erasure of the labor movement history in the South. And as she put it, Jennifer Bates, everybody doesn't know about a union. And she suggested we teach more about unions in middle schools and beyond, and I can't agree more.
Thank you. Chuck, would you talk to us about the nature of intergenerational organizing? Because as I look out with all the folks that are here today, we have a wide cast from folks that have been organizing for 40 years versus folks that have just start organizing within the last few years. How do you bring all that together when you're organizing?
And what you gotta do, and Senator, thank you, and Cass, I wanna say something about one of the persons you brought up. If nobody here had the opportunity to meet Reverend James Orange, you've missed a lot in your life. He was a mentor of mine for many years. I love the man dearly. He was family. I think everybody that knew him up here will tell you that. And I want to say one quick thing about my local union. In 1959, Local 728 had, before there's a National Master Freight Agreement, which James Little Hoffa put together in 64, you had individual regional agreements with your different truck lines, right? All right. Our founder of our local, Weldon Mathis, in 1959 at that time, blacks were not allowed to drive a truck. They could sit up in the cab if the driver allowed them, more than have sat in the back. All right, all they could do was unload freight. That was it. They were not allowed to drive. Weldon came, I'll just give you some history and background of Atlanta here in my local. 1959, Weldon went to all the owners. He said, I'm striking your asses if you don't integrate these, combine these seniority lists. This bullshit of one man being better than the other man is gone. All right, it's done. If they got seniority, they're going to drive. So we have a long history here. Long story short, everybody at that time said he's crazy. He's done in the labor movement. He had an election the next year, and he actually beat the people like 15-1 that ran against him. A bunch of racists that ran against him. So that's the mindset I come out of. My father also was a union carpenter. I talked to a couple of folks about that prior to this. Get back to what Sandra said. Everything, I'm watching, like, and I use my son as an example a lot. I graduated college. I think you're seeing this a lot with this age of workers, Cass. He done everything right. These kids do everything right. They come out, they do what we've all told them to do. They come out making $15 an hour. They're deep in debt. They're smart kids, okay? They're smart kids. They know they're getting shacked. They don't believe this trickle down bullshit. I've been living the Reagan years my whole life. I ain't seen a damn thing come out of it, to be quite honest with you, except for months. So to get back, I think when you really connect, I'm gonna stand up, y'all. I'm not a Baptist preacher. I play one sometimes on Tuesday, so. But I honestly believe that we have more in common than we do, right? Than we do against us. And empowering people. I'm gonna tell you, when we talked about, the captive audience meetings and all that. I'm an organizer, and I love the face-to-face, the door knocks. I love that. I want the spouses, the partner, whoever it is, to be there, right? Because they've got to know what's going on. They know what their spouse goes through on the job, getting in late, right? Get in early, can't take a day off, right? Vacation tonight. You would not believe in a non-union world how much vacation gets tonight. I don't give a damn how many, we're busy this week, you can't take it. We take all those things, but what I do, I scare the hell out of them as soon as I talk to them. Everybody I organize, I scare the hell out of them. I said, you're gonna lose this, you're gonna lose that, you're gonna lose this, you're gonna pay $1,000 a week union dues, blah, blah, blah. I inoculate the hell out of them. I show them every non-union leaflet I've got. I show them the videos. I show them the captive audience videos. So that way, when the boss hits them, they're already out ahead of the game. How many of y'all, now I'm gonna show my age here, sorry, Senator, I'll get on this rant, you know. How many of y'all know the original, watch the original Halloween with Jamie Lee Curtis? I'm talking about back in the 70s. How many of y'all? Wow, there's a lot of hands. Oh, let me tell you, me and my wife we were dating at that time. So we go see that movie, Halloween. At the end, when Jamie Lee kills the guy and he falls down dead, right? She's over crying. I don't know why she didn't get the hell out of the house. She's over crying, and he raises up, and it scared the dog crap out of me, right? Second time I seen that movie, it didn't scare me. The third, now I know what's going to happen. That's what you get to get into these people's minds on door knocks, on meetings. This is what's going to happen. Get used to it, right? It just almost didn't they flow. But getting the age group together, I'll get right off said, is it's all about issues. What affects this brother right here will affect her, will affect you, will affect him. That's what we've got to do, is work on their issues, not what we think they want done on the work site, right? But what they want. I just wrapped up a contract last week. Sandra and a lot of folks on this helped with a rally out there prior. But we always try to get out in front of the company. I don't stand by a gate, I don't throw leaflets, I don't throw cards at them. I do one-on-ones, right? And then build my committee. But one of the best organizing victories we've had, I organized a group in late October of last year. We reached an agreement with a company last week. It was a group of Spanish speakers, all from Mexico, all right? And then West Africans. So what a weird bunch, right? I'm a white boy, 60-something years old from the South. What a weird bunch I got to work with. But you know what? They're working people just like me. We overcame all those barriers. They looked at the big prize. So I think it doesn't matter how old these were, young or old, people know. Organizing the South, people say, oh, it's hard. I've organized right to work states. I've organized a closed shop, California, New York. People are scared. People have the same issues. They have the same fears. They have the same issues. You got to show them there's a mechanism and there's a support group. The politicians, there's a support group to pick them up. Does that make sense to y'all? All right, I'm shutting up now.
Thank you. Next, Natalie, I want to ask you, how do you work in Amazon? UPS, but now as a driver, you do part-time as a driver, part-time administrative work. How do you connect with the workers at Amazon?
So we try to make sure that they actually have a leader mentality, because that's the only way that we're going to be able to move forward. If they have leader skills, then we'll go ahead and move it forward and let them know and give them the other steps that they need to move forward to the organization.
Okay, and so when you say leadership qualities, what are you looking for?
Basically, somebody that's going to push through, be able to speak and not just down talk when they're talking to the other coworkers. They need to speak positive, also be able to pull in people, because if you can't pull in those people, that's it. The organization probably people involved.
So you're absolutely right. The ability to connect with other people, other workers that you work with. And I'm going to take that and then come to Edgar. Edgar, talk to us. And I know Edgar's dying to get out of his chair, so he will also probably pop up too. Edgar, talk to us. What's the difference that you see in the organizing and the Amazon in Bessemer versus what we saw in New York?
It's a such difference. When we look at the organizing in New York as opposed to the South, there's a difference of night and day. Not saying that people are afraid of losing their jobs, afraid of not being able to pay the bills if they like to. Both experience the same. But when you look at this, the state of New York, the number of workers that are union, 1 in 4 workers in New York are union members. I dare to try to figure the numbers out in Alabama as to how many is that are there. So just the knowledge, just to be able to say, I know someone that's a union member goes a long way as to opposed to being in Alabama, which they may know no one that is a union member. One of the significant differences is when you look at Bessemer, then you look at the proximity to Birmingham. Bessemer is a suburb of Birmingham. People do not know the history of Birmingham, but Birmingham was a staunch iron worker local, steel workers, mine workers, right there. All of this also during the civil rights movement. When we started looking at organizing as far as what took place in Bessemer, right? They have a history of organizing, maybe not in labor. But let's give Alabama and Birmingham the history and the recognition that they deserve in the civil rights movement. If you can organize community, you can organize labor. Right. When I first got into labor, it was community. It was working in the community to learn how to organize. If you can talk to a person about what they can do in their community to elect a school board member, you can talk to a person about what it takes to organize a union at their facility. Also, a lot of people don't see the correlation that's there, right? So teaching a person what it is to have a union, you first have to bring it home, as they would say. How many of y'all are active in your church? How many of y'all belong to a community organization? How many of y'all work with doing picnics in the community? How many of y'all work with actually feeding the community? That person right there is a leader in their community, and you just simply teach them to utilize the same skills, be it electing someone that is fighting for their community, right? Or either supporting a union and go in and talk to their fellow workers. Everybody in here talk to someone every day that would love to have a union. Everyone. How many times do we sit up and talk to someone and that person complains about their job? Or they complain about the benefits that they don't have? Or just like Chuck talked about earlier, vacation. Or they come, well, I can't take time off. We busy. They won't let me off. Every day we talk to workers that have to do it. We're the ones who have to encourage that person. Well, have you ever thought about organizing? We miss the boat when we don't ask that question on so many occasions, because all of us are organizers. Anyone that's sitting in this room, you're here for a reason. You took the initiative to come to Atlanta, or either to come downtown. They'll drive it down 400 this morning, I was traveling for an hour and a half. All right. So we're all here for a reason, and it's something that we believe in. When we start talking about young, old, well, I'm 68 years old, right? I started in labor with the work for labor at 35 years old. I was considered one of the youngsters at that time. Chuck and I have a long history together. We speak of James Orange. James Orange has also got me involved in civil rights, and also in labor. One of the significant things that James did, he called everybody leader. All right, leader. Everybody has a skill to be a leader. If you take the initiative and utilize it, we can all teach one and bring one. All right. So let's not get caught up as far as a 68-year-old being able to communicate with a 22-year-old. I just have to try to remember things when I talk to my grandson. so we can all communicate. But people love to talk to folks that deal in their life. And we, as folks that have been in the labor movement a long time, we have to bring folks along. We have to recognize that people are doing things differently, that it's a new day, that the way we did things may not work today. So we have to be very, very open to that. All right. And with that, I'll pass it on. I think I answered what you asked.
Yes, I think you did. Now, this question I'm going to throw out for everyone. What tactics have you found to be the most effective in organizing, knowing the uniqueness of organizing and the uniqueness of every worker?
I think, the organizing conversation is such a bedrock thing to work with people and practice with people on. If there's one thing you do, I would say that, because especially, yeah, it's strange these days to have a real human conversation and not just a text message. And it is hard for people to do that and to walk people through that and have them practice in a safe space. And right, go through the awkward silence of asking someone a question, waiting for them to respond, right? What do you most want to see changed at work? And if you were in charge tomorrow, what are the 3 things you would change? So, and letting that person answer, even if it takes them a minute. If you only did that, I think you would be getting that person ready to actually be with their coworkers and build a committee and do what's necessary.
I'll go ahead. I like to do, what I call taking baby steps with the group I'm organizing. Task them one day to do something as simple. I've done this a lot. American flag lapel pin. All right, that we check. Not everybody's wearing that. Okay. The next, I put a union lapel pin. We'll do that. I do a lot of petitions. I want to keep the boss. I'm not on the defense. I stay on the offense. Okay. I stay constantly on offense. One thing I've done, and I thought it was one of the greatest things ever for the workers, not for me, but a big waste company organized here in Atlanta. They're the second largest. Bill Gates owns 33% of the company and treats the workers like crap, which doesn't surprise me at all. But these folks could not start wearing their short pants in the garbage truck in Atlanta until May 15th. For some, just to be a boss, you know what I mean? Just to be a boss, show them in power. You can't wear those till May 15th. I started a petition that said we want to be able to wear our short pants on May 1st. Everybody signed it, and I had a walk in on the boss. And everybody told me, they said, this is crazy. What's going to happen? I said, look, if the company says no, right, we're not, it's going to be May 15th, then we've done exactly what we told them was going to happen. The company is the parent, they're the child. The company's going to tell them what to do all the time. When the company, we're in a no-lose situation here. If the company caves in, it shows the power of the worker doing something that small. So I think all these little small things that you start out with baby steps and you go into a full sprint. And it really captures these workers. They get confident in themselves on small things you task them to do, and then leads up to that. And then you got to get the contract, and by then you've got a radical, militant committee and workforce, which is what I love, then to go into contract negotiations. So that's it. Thank you.
So as me just being a beginner, starting on the Amazon project, we do the same thing. We talk to them small tasks, we talk to them one-on-one, and we educate them about what the benefits is as working as a UPS worker and the potential that they'll have if they want to go ahead and try to organize. We tell them if they're uncomfortable talking one-on-one, that we'll actually speak to them. Just give us the name and number, and we'll reach out to their employees on their grounds, wherever they want to be at, and let them know what it is to actually organize. And the steps that they need, where if they just get one person's name and number, we'll reach out and give them the information you need, educate them, and empower them to move on.
Thank you. How about you, Edgar? And also, let me kind of change up my question for you. 2 things that we know have a tremendous impact on an organizing drive are captive audience meetings and the discussion about union dues or membership fees. How do you address that, Edgar?
Similar to Chuck mentioned it earlier, I get it out of the way all the time. You know, that this is a membership organization. I let them know what the dues are initially to take it away from the company, and I put it out there. There's no secret to that. I speak of as far as past history, what my dues was as a football player. Right? And then I speak of all of that as far as where they are. And I even do comparisons around the country as far as what some of the unions pay in dues and also the benefits that they receive from that. Captive audience meetings are going to happen. It's something that we can't control. But we make sure and utilize it to our best ability as far as taking the impact away. I've used many films to where the company has had films and to where we got from the board or held the online to them. And I show the employees exactly what's going to be asked. I answer the question directly, can you be fired on strike? Yes. Don't bullshit, this is real. I tell them what the Constitution says as far as this is what is needed for you all to go on strike. 3/4 of the majority. Right. And I'm talking to what can happen with your family. Because you do not want a person to make that decision to go on strike and to say, well, no, I did tell you. But the union is here to try to support you and do all that we can during this moment. And you let them know that their strike is your way. A lot of times that fear is turned around. We lose the fact that we're selling our labor. We're giving it away, nobody's doing it their favor. By giving you, you're not giving me a job. In society today, no one is being given a job. People are looking for folks to come to work. So everyone that goes to apply, they are needed. We talk about the food supply, the chain, all this. The problem is that there's not enough folks to supply. So there's a need for that worker. So you're selling your labor. You decide, I'm gonna sell it to this company or that company. I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna take that. And if I'm not happy with it, I'm gonna improve it. Don't leave the job, fix the job. All right? You have the power to fix what's fair. Do not sacrifice your time. Do not give up the time that you put into it and walk away when you have an opportunity to fix it by talking to your coworkers.
Thank you. I'm going to touch on this topic, and this will be the last part of the conversation, and we're going to open it up to questions from you. But this is something that we need to talk a little bit more about that doesn't happen often enough, because a lot of you are organizers. A lot of you have community and faith-based organizations that organize workers all the time. We know Jobs with Justice and any number of organizations that organize people. The connection, though, that sometimes is missing. What happens? You organize the people, you organize families, working people, then when they go to work, how can we do a better job as labor unions connecting to the organizing that you do in the community and with faith? Any of you, Chuck, you can talk a little bit about what we've done here in Atlanta with your organizing drives.
Yeah, I don't do an organizing drive. I've been all over this country without community support. My first, not going to a new city, is my first thing is to go to the labor council, see what connection that local union has with the labor council. That ties me in with what I need to do. And I will tell you, when you start getting letters from, especially in the waste industry or even in any industry here, we've got constituents. But this thing is, you got to realize what I primarily organize in has somewhat of a little bit of government control where the contract's going on. It not only does it back the employer down, it actually picks the workers up. I'm big on prayer vigils with the boss there, walk in, they don't know what to do. If so what, if they run us off, we'll just do a press release about how they just took 6 reverends and run them off the property. That's kind of company we're dealing with, okay? But it really empowers the workers, and that's what I like about it. If you're not doing that in your campaigns, I suggest you do. Again, we want as many allies we can. But I know what it does for me. Concerned Black clergy in this town is a big player, and they're good folks. We use them a lot. And I'm gonna be honest with y'all, I'm gonna be quite honest. Sandra's done a remarkable job helping me over the years, and I appreciate that, Sandra, as Edgar has. It's just the mentality we have here, that we've got to be together, everything, right? I mean, we have to be together.
Like I said, my beginning was community. Right? You cannot successfully organize anyone without community. Be it a community organization, if we can go to small town USA. I'm one of those, and similar to Chuck, I've worked in every state in the United States. I've worked all over Canada in organizing bodies. So you align yourself with the organizations that are there. If there's not a labor council there, you find out what is the community group that is fighting for electrical power? What is the community group that is helping children? All of those directly relate to the workers that you organize. Because you're going to find your leadership and you're going to find a base that you can work from and also work in. Labor is simply people working in the community. People want to say, well, they're outsiders. I'm not down outside. Yeah. These folks here are the ones that's organizing the union. They live here. I'm simply here to advise on how to do it. Yeah. It's their power. It's their community. But the companies love to label that person as an outsider. And it's our job to remind that worker, no, you're not an outsider. You all live here. This is your community, and you're fighting for everything here. A lot of times we relate to the church. But let's be real about it. The church isn't always an ally. Right? So let's be real in those communities where we are. Right? One of the facilities that we represent here in Georgia is down in Camilla, Georgia. Right? Facility has been organized for years. Supported plan 2,000 people, large Black community, majority workers female. Right? One of the hardest hit areas in the state with COVID. Owned by one of the larger protein companies in the country. Right? We took them on when COVID hit. Right? Literally with every press conference, what they weren't doing, what they were trying to do, because the meat got more than important than the work. Right? We formed allies, we at the church, we at the community. We were active in politics there. The mayor, one of the first Black mayors who were elected there, right? He couldn't get a damn key to the city hall. And this is today, a year and a half ago. He couldn't get a key to the city hall. So we got involved. We get involved with voter registration, be it either what is going on in the community, what's important to our members, what's important to those workers. You don't go in thinking that you know the answers. One of the earlier lessons I learned was working in the hills of Kentucky, or mountains, they like to say. I went up house calling, we organized the facility there. I house called from this person. Kids running around, barefoot, diapers, and everything, reminded me of Texas. So I'm talking to this guy, small house, been in the family for years. You didn't tell all this. But we're talking to this person that ever organized a union. And I'm telling them what I see as the things that are important. This is what we can do. This is what the union can do. This. He said, well, I don't need that. I have everything I need. Had a home, beautiful mountain view, home generational, been in the family for years, had a crop over there, had cattle over there. I got everything I need. I don't need that. But it made me realize things that are important to me ain't important to this worker. So we got to learn to listen is basically what it's doing, and to ask the questions. You can never ask enough questions when you're talking to a worker. Don't be bashful. Because many times they want to share with you as far as exactly what their problems are on a daily basis. So always communication is the key. And also just be there for them.
Thank you, and I want to thank you all for your responses. Are there any questions from the floor? If so, we ask that you use, I think that mic is gone, but just think it's intimate enough here. If you stand up and ask a question, we can hear you.
Oh, there's nobody in here bashful.
Well, okay, go ahead, please.
What possibilities for multi-union organizing do you see in Atlanta today or the broader South? As in what specific employers or sectors or cities? How can we better collaborate with you to prevent the message you've been all sharing throughout your discussion today?
I would say limit. Retail workers, we organize, and one of the tactics I use, and I'm sure we do it overall, there may be facilities that are organized in other parts of the country, and they run south, trying to get away from you. But those are our first targets. If we have a contract with you in Michigan, I'll be damned if you're gonna run here and think that you're gonna work non-union, you know, and then up there telling us negotiations. When we get there, we don't pay, well, bullshit, we don't organize you. Or if we organized REI up in New York, right? So I've been meeting with the workers here. Well, they have a employee chat line, and so we've been dealing with those and also bringing them work for REI. Well, is it something that I would have initially gone after? No. Let's be realistic again, is you've got to find out where you have the clout to organize. And your organizing is simply planning ahead to get that contract. So we've got to be able to have the clout to get that contract.
Yeah.
Are you in a union here?
Yeah.
What union?
I'm in a union and a union coalition, let's say. I organize at Washington University in St. Louis, mostly grads, but other workers too, library workers, postdocs, but then Higher Ed Labor United is bringing together all the different national
Okay.
campus unions, including, of course.
Well, wait a minute, let me congratulate him, because that's my alma mater.
That's awesome. I mean, there's a strong network here, as I've mentioned, here in Atlanta, and I think probably there's still room to keep expanding that. You know, and including unions that don't have a path to a contract, because they don't have a path to an election in the public sector in the South. You know, we lack collective bargaining rights in every southern state except Florida, and there's some in Kentucky, right? And so that's a state law that where public sector workers are excluded from federal labor law, and states decide. We can change that, but it's going to take a while to look who's in power. And so making room, I think, for those kinds of unions and that kind of organizing the pre-majority or minority unionism and the recognition of those fights that they're winning. So the University of Georgia United Campus Workers members there had a 3-year campaign to eliminate the fees for graduate students. It ended up affecting system-wide graduate and undergraduate students, and they eliminated the $450 per semester fee from fighting with no recognized union, but it's still a union of members organizing with a strategic campaign. So I think, yeah, like expanding our view, Starbucks workers, right? Everybody should be brought in and thought of as collaborators.
Let me say this before we close, and then Chuck make your comment. I would not want to ever end this panel without talking about the PRO-ACT and the connection between being politically active. All union members need to know what is at stake, particularly in right to work states, particularly. But as we see the whole nation going, every state needs to have their union members educated. And that means you don't wait until the election cycle. This is something that I applaud Eric Richardson and some of the folks that I work with constantly through RW, the Teamsters, CWA, which Eric is a member of, and also the new executive director of the Atlanta North Georgia Labor Council. We have to be politically engaged and astute and know that lobbying makes a difference. You're right. It's who's in office.
And the public service
And
freedom to
that's right.
negotiate that.
That's
as
right.
well, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I agree with Edgar. We look at any company that I try to organize. I know off the top of my head with waste companies, we're always getting other, companies that pop in. We look to see if they're union in other areas. Then we'll connect workers there with the workers organizing here. But our biggest, I think what should be our biggest goal with that is pre-COVID, which knocked everything back, right? Is the economic engine of Atlanta is our airport. And our union density is so low at that airport. And there's a piece for everybody to play in. The Teamsters, RWDSU, Unite Here, CWA, the building firms. I mean, it is something we should form a coalition. The numbers are big. It's something we can put in, right? We should knock that airport out of the park. That's
Please do.
going back what you, why we have not, well, I know we were headed that way, and then the pandemic hit, the numbers went down, finances went down, but we're back on the rise, and I think that should be something, Eric, that's something we should be looking at, okay?
We appear to
I know I'm
have.
preaching to the choir.
I know you are. I know
We
you are.
have a new mayor that is pro-labor. We will see. He is new in this term, but he certainly has been acting as an advocate for labor unions, particularly at the airport. But organizing would be a lot easier if the PRO Act was actually passed. Eric?
The most important word of the working class is solidarity. My plans. I love this conference. We need to do this more often, but not only that, we need to start some training institutes for organizers, put them through some live sessions. But the other part is every affiliate union and non-affiliated union, we need to come together when somebody's organizing and back them up.
That's right.
We need to be there, but we need to share that information. And if you can funnel that through the Labor Council, we'll be more than welcome to distribute that information out to the general public and anybody who has access to our site.
And that is certainly what we've done. Thank you.
Exactly, and I've done this with Sandra and I. Well, I work with her. She was my
We-
boss.
We all work together, so thank you, Eric.
Ask a question. I asked Sandra this earlier. How many folks are in this conference from labor? Raise your hand. Community organizer? Political?
And some of you know, right?
Well, to me, all three of them are the same. You can't do labor without the rest of them. Yeah. So, thank you.
And thank you all.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask a question about supporting community activists. So I know here in the city, housing justice is a huge issue. Access to affordable housing and also safe living conditions. So what are the unions doing? What's the labor movement doing to support those community organizers around housing justice?
Now, can I ask you to name some so that it can be broadcast? 'Cause
Well,
I
there
would-
is a housing
yeah,
justice league. I'm not sure if that's who you're representing.
I'm not representing them, I'm just asking.
It's
No,
a
no
major
question.
issue for the
Let
Apple
me-
retail workers.
Let me just make a comment about that. Because during the last 2 years of the pandemic, we did a lot of work. The Labor Council and other unions that are affiliated with the Labor Council, with the Housing Justice League. We actively had a grant through Fulton County to assist people with their, not only their housing, but medications, their utilities. That is uber important to us because, as I think Cassie is about to say, our members are impacted by that because we are members of the community.
It's an
We're in a
organizing
working
issue
family.
too, right? People can't afford to live anywhere near that where they work. People are living with friends and
Yeah.
relatives. Even making a little bit more in a place like an Apple retail store than maybe some other retail locations, it's not enough. And to live in Atlanta, the workers there at Cumberland Mall put together some analysis that was like, we need $28 an hour to afford a 1-bedroom apartment in this city.
That's right.
And that's a far cry from what the starting pay is, right? And so I think lifting up all the efforts about affordable housing is key, especially with folks, who are trying to organize, who don't have that higher pay yet.
But it's about all essential needs. We partner with a food pantry, and some of you that know me know we work consistently with Margie's house. She's in Southwest Fulton County, in Fairfield. We continue to partner with them because we have food deserts here in the city. And they happen to be in areas that are particularly a majority African-American. But we know that there is more work to do. But that's the message. When the pandemic started, we found a way to partner with organizations to do COVID testing and to provide vaccines. We have to be relevant as unions. It's no more of this, well, we're a union and we do this with our members and the rest of you perish. We cannot afford to go into the future. We won't go into the future that way. We will perish.
Well, the only comment that I'll make is a lot of times, we talk about the community, and anyone who's around me, know that's always a major topic of mine. I'm constantly asking the members, what are you all involved in here? You know, be it Pine Mountain Valley, Georgia, you know, or be it in Aiken, South Carolina. What are you all doing here? What do you all want us to be involved with? But the bottom line is, I live in Atlanta, Georgia. So you have to let me know what's important here, and also let the local know, are folks at you as well as officers. So it's important that we put that information out to our members, that we're here for them and their communities.
There's a young lady right here.
So I wanted to ask the organizers, particularly the Southern organizers, we talk about this shift in labor movement and the way we're organizing. I want to know from your perspective, do you see at these retailers like Amazon, Apple, and Starbucks, a shift in their tactics? Is this a different fight from their side? And if so, what are y'all doing to combat whatever you see from places like Amazon?
I think Amazon's, huge in this. I think exposing union busting to the general public, and I think that's been happening more as a result of Amazon organizing. The Apple folks, again, same law firm advising them as advising Starbucks. They're Littler Mendelsohn. One thing is like that Starbucks workers are doing effectively is using their own language against them. So using the corporate feel-good language to point out the hypocrisy in the way people are treated. And I think that's something Apple retail workers are learning, because the company was able to more or less weaponize the credo in a way that threw them off. Even thinking about it ahead of time, even using some of the credo, values in their own vision statement, it throws you off. And so, yeah, I think folks are hearing about this. I'm sure corporations getting slicker, trying to use things like diversity, equity, and inclusion. Groups. There is one within Apple, and some of the workers had clearly been told and were repeating back to others. No, we already have that here. It's the DNA group. It stands for something else, but it's similar to a DEI group. And another person's like, oh, no, we don't. That's not a real voice, but they're using that. And so I think being on the lookout for all of that and talking about it ahead of time, right? How to overcome it, and practicing with people, playing back meetings of workers where they have taken over a captive audience meeting is one of, I think, the most effective ways to show how it's done. So they hear a room with the boss and maybe a union consultant, and they hear the workers themselves respectfully interrupting and taking it back, the power in the room. But no one can do it for them when they're in the moment. So I think just trying to share all these different tactics, and the Alphabet Workers Union is some of Google employees and Google contractors. That's another part of CWA. They tweeted out some of their captive audience video recordings, which we were able to then play for the Apple retail folks. So more of that and showing people listening to it. I mean, the company has their crazy videos. I think those are good to show people too. The world will end if the union comes. But then how to take over those meetings. And Amazon did it too. And Chris Moss tweeted out some of those as well.
I was gonna say, and Cassie just made my memory come back. I had a group in West Virginia I was organizing, and like I would have them in every captive audience meeting when it start. I just, whoa. What union dudes got to do any damn thing about you telling me 2 weeks ago I couldn't take the day off. So I would have them totally disrupt. You see what I'm saying? Totally. Every time they would hit on their points, they would bring something up. Whoa, wait just a minute. You told us, our healthcare wasn't good. It went up 17%. What the hell has that got to do with me being on strike? Just keep rattling that. We had so much fun around it. One guy went and rented a popcorn machine on the day of the last captain before the vote. Had a popcorn machine out there to cool drinks like he was in a movie. And he was telling, hey, take this in, we're gonna watch a good movie. They all got in there. This guy's name was Roy Wells. He goes, the attorney's getting ready to start the captive audience film. He goes, hey, is that one where Chuck's screaming at y'all on the microphone or on the bullhorn? And then y'all have this worker come in from Alabama talking about how bad the union is? They pulled the movie out, the attorney, and left the building because we turned him in to such a proactive force of taking the boss on that it done that. One thing I want to say, and Natty, I'll let you speak. I'm trying to hog the mic, you know, but one thing I want to say here, this ain't no damn 9-to-5 job. And I think organizers, let me tell you, especially, and I'm speaking my own union, we get fat and we get complacent. Men, you're just fat, not complacent. And we don't want to do the 12 and 14 hour a day sometimes. You know, I'm gonna win this anyway, don't worry about it. You have got, if you think you're gonna wear a suit and tie and be an organizer and be a big shot, you need to go find a damn job someplace else. This is 7 days a week, holidays, this is everything. And you've got to put the blood, sweat, and tears into it for it to, you outwork the bastards. That's what I tell all my organizers. Outwork the bastards, you will win. So I'm done.
So with that, we are done. We appreciate you. Thank you all. Join me in thanking them. We will take a 10-minute break and then ask that you go to your workshops. Thank you.